So today I want to talk about an essay that I read yesterday by Marc Andreessen. So it was a really interesting essay about how the US and the most of the Western society as a whole was deteriorating and how we're becoming lazy and how we're not the number one as we used to be. And I think the idea of being always a number one is something that the US always had. And what happens is if you're always a number one and you don't have someone to compete and to look up, something happens. And what happens is that we become complacent. And when we become complacent, we become lazy. And when we become lazy, we do nothing. And I think that's what happened now in the US. And he starts the essay talking about how we basically fail to imagine what could happen with the virus. We fail to do something about it, and and he argues that we should build. Would you have factories like the one that Elon Musk built, and that's the way to create a future that we want to have. One of the examples that he used was an example about the TV show called Westworld, and I think that show is something about it's futuristic, and when they try to portray future buildings, they had to go to Singapore. They couldn't even go to New York or Chicago or Austin or cities like that, and they had to go to Singapore, right? So what does that mean for the U.S. and for people who live in the U.S.? And I think that's something that we need to improve. And again, the most important idea was and he says that it's time to build, to do something, to start creating. And one of the ways to do that is that number one, sure, politics is a big thing that doesn't allow growth as it could be. And the other thing is that if you look at the people who are creating change, big change, and an example could be Elon Musk. And where is Elon Musk from? He's from South Africa. A lot of people who could help create the change are usually from different countries. Um, Something to think about. Um, but yeah, so one of the most important ideas was that it's time to build, it's time to do something, it's time to create. And in one of my TED talks, I talk about how one of the reasons why we're also pessimistic is that we're complacent, and this complacency in the world, in the US, is showing all over the place. And in order to not be complacent, we have to work on exciting things, and we have to have a common cause. We cannot be divided as Republicans and Democrats. We have to be united as one and to create big things and big opportunities. And I think that's what we need to do, and create a future. He also talks about how we always thought we were going to have flying cars. What happened with that? Like, is anyone doing anything about it? We're not doing enough in the future that seems to be here. It's not getting here because of our inability to create and promote that innovation. Peter Thiel is very famous for talking about a stagnation, how we're not achieving progress as we used to be. He talks about how from the 1970s to now, there has not been progress in the world of atoms and only in the world of bits like computers. Sure, we've had a lot of development with computers, but not in other fields such as physics and biology, and that's something to really think about. And we think we're achieving progress, which we are, but it's not to the level which we could and which we should be aiming for. So, in order to create a future, we need to do two things. Number one, we need to encourage innovation and progress from people, and we need to encourage people to be able to imagine, to be able to be creative. And number two, we need to realize that we're not the number one. The US is not the number one. And when we realize that, we're able to improve and to become better and to get to the level of innovation and progress that we need to be at, to have flying cars, to have futuristic cities, to live until 200. So those are the things that we need to do. Overall, it was a really good essay, and I will leave that link below so you can check it out. Thank you.